Over the past few years, sublimation has taken the crafting world by storm. It has completely exploded. And I think it's really due to the accessibility of printers and heat presses and sublimation blanks. So why do you care about this if you're a laser owner? What the heck does this have to do with you? Well, if you are interested in that as a craft, great, you can add it to your arsenal. But also as a business owner, this is a great way to add personalization options to your shop. You could also add blanks with the prints. You don't necessarily have to print them, but for those crafters who are doing sublimation at home, generally they're finding kind of basic blanks. So if you could provide some sublimation blanks for them to use, wouldn't that be a great addition to your business? Today we're going to talk about everything that you need for sublimating on acrylic specifically. There are other things that you can sublimate on, but today we're just gonna cover acrylic, and we're gonna cover my favorite acrylic to use and a couple other examples that you could use but aren't my favorites, and I wanna show you why. If that sounds interesting to you, let's get into it. Hi, I'm Katie, and this is Things Katie Makes, where we talk all things lasers. And I have a special soft spot for laser business owners. So today we're going to talk about sublimation and why this is such a fun thing to add to your business. You don't need a ton of supplies to get started, although some are better than others and you may want to make some investments. And it's really relatively simple to do if you just follow the instructions. You will have to play around with things a little bit to get it right for all the combination of things that you will have for yourself. But once you have it dialed in, it's really easy to replicate over and over. And with something like my Thunder Laser, you can make those blanks really, really quickly. A little keychain blank will take less than 30 seconds. So great, easy production, and something that you can make completely unique. Now, what is the process of sublimation? So sublimation transfers ink from the paper that you print out to your substrate, and it becomes part of that substrate. So it bonds chemically with the substrate so that it becomes permanent. This is a really cool process and really gives you a lot of possibilities. Let's start with the supplies that you need for sublimation. You need a sublimation printer. And this is probably one of the biggest investments that you will need to make. And you need to make a decision on, do you want to find an inkjet printer that has wells that you can fill with sublimation ink and becomes a sublimation printer permanently? Or do you want to buy a dedicated sublimation printer? If I had it to do over again, I would buy a dedicated sublimation printer, really because the color management becomes a lot less complex when you do that. They have software that helps you to manage the color versus you needing to play with all sorts of different color profiles to make sure that the color comes out correctly every time. You also can get a larger size than I was able to get, so I can print on 8.5 by 11 sheets only. And I really wish that I could print larger on 11 by 17 or even 13 by 19. Because with acrylic sheets, you might want to print an entire sheet. The next thing that you'll need is some sort of heat press. Now, I don't have room right now in my craft room for a large heat press, so I haven't purchased one. I simply have an easy press, and I'll show you how I use that to do sublimation. But your ideal scenario is a heat press that can have consistent pressure. That's important, getting that temperature and time together to get the best, most vibrant results. So you will want one that has pressure settings. I have linked the one below that I would recommend and that I would be looking to purchase if I was purchasing a new one right now, because it has an auto release. So it's really similar to the Cricut Auto Press, but at a much lower price point. So that's the one that I would recommend. The next thing that you'll need is sublimation paper. I'm using Printer's Jack in this video today, but I typically use ASUB, which I've also linked below. You'll need sublimation ink if you are converting a printer. I use Cosmos ink, and I really love the colors that I get with that. The next thing that you need is your acrylic. So what acrylic do you need specifically to do sublimation? If you want the most vibrant results, and I'll show you this at the end, you want 3015 white, and you can get that at CMB Acrylic. It's specifically a really vibrant, really opaque white, so you get nice crisp colors. The reason that this is important is that most printers don't print white. So unless you have a white toner printer, which I don't even know if they make sublimation white toner printers, you can't print white. So having a vibrant white as your background when you're applying your sublimation ink to it is going to give you the best results. You can also sublimate on other things. You can sublimate on almost any color. It's just what will those results look like. So today I'm gonna show you results on a frosted clear and a clear acrylic, as well as that 3015 white. With your heat press, you'll also need a couple more things to make sure that you don't damage either your press or your blank. The first thing you'll need is some sort of heat resistant paper. You can use butcher paper. I like this one from Artistry. It's specifically designed to be heat resistant, but also it's really great at making sure that the ink doesn't transfer from your blank through that paper to your press. And this one can be reused over and over again, so a small roll will last you a long time. You'll also need some sort of surface to press on if you have an easy press. Because of the heat source, you don't want that directly on a wood table or anything like that. I have a couple different mats that I use. And you might want a Teflon sheet just as one other layer in between your blank and that paper, just to keep everything nice and smooth. And you definitely don't want anything that can press lines into your blank. All right, those are the materials we need. So we'll move over to the computer and I'll talk you through the process of preparing both the print and the cutout shape for your laser. So we'll start our work over in Illustrator because that is the program that I use to color manage my prints. So I found this beautiful watercolor image of this tulip that I thought would make a great. Now with this image, I'm going to prepare it here and then I'm going to bring it over in Lightburn so that I have the right sizing for my print. All I really need to do here is just get it to the size that I want. I'm actually okay with this 3.44 inches. I think that's a good size for my keychain. And I don't need to do anything else. It's ready to go here. I know that I'm making 3 though, so I'm going to copy and paste 3 versions of this. And then I will show you the printer settings that I am currently using for my Epson printer. So I will go into File, Print, and the first thing that I will check is the color management. So you can see here, there's color handling. I'm gonna let Illustrator determine my colors, but I am gonna use a printer profile. You can install printer profiles from each different ink manufacturer, but you'll want to try to get one that matches the combination of the paper and the ink that you're using, which is where this can get a little bit tricky. You'll have to play around a little bit with what you like. So I have found that even though I am using the Cosmos ink with my prints, I'm finding that this Hippo Epson profile works better for my prints. And I am gonna use the saturation version of the colors, which says that it's producing a vivid colors at expense of color accuracy. So I want bright saturated colors, so I'm going to go ahead and use that. The other piece that I need to do is go into my setup for my printer specifically so that I can print this reversed because I am printing this on the white. On the clear, I could print it either way because I could print it on the back of the clear. There really isn't a front or a back, so it won't matter. And on the frosted clear, I could decide if I wanted to put that on the back side of that frosted clear or if I wanted to put it on the front. But that's in my layout menu for my Epson, and I need to flip this horizontally. And once I do that here, I have saved this as a preset for my computer under Sublimation. So I saved the current settings as a preset, and now I can use this anytime that I'm using Sublimation. Also within Illustrator, once I save this document, it will know that it needs to save these print settings, so it will be this way when I come in again. What I like about using a specific Sublimation printer is that you will have a whole thing that color manages for you so that you will have much more control over how those colors turn out. That's all I need to do in Illustrator, and now I'm ready to move this flower over into Lightburn. I'm going to start a new project and I am not going to save my prior project, and I am simply going to paste that flower over here into Lightburn. Now you can see that it came over here as an image with the intention to engrave this as an image, but that's not what we want. So we're gonna go ahead and ungroup this image. And the first thing that we will see now is that when I right click the image, I have the option to trace it. So we're going to trace it. And this is a feature that I really like in Lightburn. I tried doing this in Illustrator and it was quite complex and took me a lot of time to try to get the results that I wanted, and they still weren't quite what I wanted. So I'm going to do this in here. And really the first thing that I want to do is you can see the trace that it's going to make based on the current settings. What I want to do is try to get this to make just the outline of the flower, because all I'm really trying to do is cut out around the outside. So I'm going to keep pulling, and it's going to look completely wrong at first. But once I keep pulling, I am going to see that it's getting rid of all of those dots. And I'm going to get right here up to the edge at 253. And now I have mainly the edges. What I also need to exclude is all of these points because I don't want to make these cut points. That could make for quite a disaster. I don't want to do that. So what I'm really going to do here is ignore. And I'm going to start with a value of 200. And this is really ignoring color values, light and dark. So it's now ignoring these, pixel values. So it's ignoring anything that doesn't have that many pixels in it. You can also fade the image so you can see sort of what does that outline look like. And you can show how many points you're getting within that outline. So this is more points than I would like, but I can work on that later within the image. I can also start smoothing this, optimizing this a little bit, and it will start taking out some of those points. Depending on how you plan to use this, you may need to play around with that a little bit more or a little bit less. Lightburn has a great tutorial on this, which I have linked in the description below on all of the different pieces. Now that I have that, I'm going to go ahead and keep my image. There's the delete after a trace. I'm going to keep my image so that I can keep my size clean as I build out the outline for this keychain. Okay, now I have that outline. I am going to also ungroup again. And you can see I have that nice tight outline to my flower. I can do a couple different things from here. I can either go ahead and optimize this image, but since I know that I'm making an outer image that I really just want to hold this, I'm going to go ahead and offset my shapes from the tools menu. And I'm going to do a very minimal offset. I'm going to try 1.5 millimeters. Let's see if I like 1 millimeter. We're going to go with 1.5 millimeters with a round corner style and the outside only, because all I'm trying to do is get the outside of this image to make a backer for this keychain. I'm choosing to select the resulting object so that I can move this. I'm also going to delete the original because I was only using that outside to get this outline that I have here. You could cut this really, really tight to the image. It's just in this case, I don't want to do that. And I'm also going to optimize and simplify the results, which will just remove additional nodes. I like the corner style round for this. You can see if I were to change it to a bevel or a corner, I'm going to get some funky little sharp points in different places. So I don't want to do that. All right, now I have my shape for my keychain. I need to ungroup this as well. And then I can optimize this shape if I want to. Right now it's 161 points. If I wanted to smooth the source shape, I could potentially bring that down to some fewer points on my curves, on my lines, and you can see the different points kind of moving along as I smooth to these shapes. So depending on how precise you want that shape to be to your image, you can change those points. And that's really just about your cut. Okay, so I like how that's looking. Now I need to add the circles for my keychain. So I know that I like the main circle on my keychain to be a circle that is 0.4 inches. So I'm going to start by drawing a circle. And then I am going to type 0.4 in here in the height and width to get that circle that size. And I'm going to go back to my arrow tool and pick that up and bring it to the top of my flower. I'm going to place this about halfway down on that outline, and then I'm going to use the unite, the Boolean union here to create one shape for that. Then I need my second circle for my keychain. So I'm going to go back to my circle tool. I'm going to create my circle, and I like that to be about 0.19 inches. So I'm going to type that in as well. Probably could just go with 5 millimeters here. I'm going to go back to my arrow, pick that up, and place that into my circle. I don't love where that's hitting because it's nudging up against my flower. So I'm actually going to undo that union and move this initial circle up a little bit more so that I have a little more room. So repeat that union, make my second circle. We'll just make it 5 millimeters this time. We will pick that up and place it. All right, I don't love, again, where that snapped, so I'm just gonna actually move it down to 50 millimeters on the Y axis. Actually 49.5. So now this is ready to go. All I need to do is remove this image. I don't need it here. It was just helping me make sure that I liked my guideline. And I can go ahead and send this to the laser. I like this 15 speed 60 power for that white acrylic. And I'm gonna go ahead and send this. All right, my acrylic is in my laser. My origin is set. And now my settings allow this to warm up for about 15 seconds before it kicks on, because that allows the fans to kick on fully. If you would be curious about how to set that, I can record that in another video. So this is a super quick cut. So that internal circle cut first, and then it is just making the entire path. This whole thing takes less than 30 seconds to cut out. So great if you're trying to add some smaller things to your shop. Now we are ready to go ahead and grab those printouts and get started with pressing. So the Easy Press is heating up. I'm going to use the temperature of 385 for 60 seconds. You can see those three blanks, the clear, the white, and the frosted clear. And as I cut these out, I am not looking for perfection here. I'm just looking for the ability to be able to see where I want to place these on the blanks, because I need to get them as precise as I can. But since I did not cut this super tight, they don't need to be super tight either. I just need something to give me the visual. Obviously, it'll be much easier on the clear as I can see it through. But on the white and the frosted, I want to be a little bit closer with that cut. Here are the three versions we're using, the white, the clear, and the frosted. And I'm gonna go ahead and attach that first image to the clear. And really the goal that I have here is to get that paper down so that it doesn't move when it's underneath the press. So I'm going to use heat resistant tape. I'm using the Cricut brand here. There are a lot of different ones you can use, and I've linked a few below. This one is quite wide, so I'm placing it down and then wrapping it around the sides to make sure that that doesn't move. And really, like I said, the goal is to make sure that your image doesn't move while you're applying the pressure with the heat press. All three keychains are ready to go, so we will prep the first one for pressing. You can see here I have a Teflon sheet, and I also have that artistry paper. So I'm setting those two things down, understanding exactly where this is, because I'm going to try to set my Cricut press, the handle of it, on top of that as much as I can so that I can apply pressure for the full 60 seconds. You'll see I'm leaning into the press quite a bit to make sure that I have even, consistent pressure. Now you'll see me apply this same process a couple more times and trying to check that print in between. These suckers are hot, and I should be wearing heat resistant gloves if I really want to check that. The clear I was able to check pretty well because I could use the tweezers and see it on the side. But really, if you want to check if you're okay before peeling the tape off, you want to use heat resistant gloves and those tweezers. And here are the results. So this is the clear, the pure clear. So you can see it's pretty vibrant, but you lose so much because you don't have the white. So this might be cool as a background for something, or if you wanted to put white behind it. This is the frosted clear. So similar results, but you also get more muted. And now the white. So obviously this is my favorite because of the vibrant colors that you get, but I could see a use for each different one of these. What about you? So which is your favorite? Do you like the vibrant results of the white, the more muted colors on that frosted acrylic, or that simple clear? And can you see a use for these in your business or just in your crafting? I'd love to hear what you think you might do with this and what other questions you have down in the comments. You'll also find a link to Laser Maker School, a Facebook group that I run with Jacqueline Kyle from the Fable Tree and John Kaipoff. And we are talking about all things laser businesses over there with people with all different kinds of lasers. So you can have a Thunder, a Glowforge, or whatever else, and come join us there so we can talk lasers. If you enjoyed this video, I would really appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel so that you don't miss any content, and it really helps this information get out there. I'd also love to know what you're interested in learning more about. So drop that in the comments, and I can't wait to see you in the next one.